Praise be to Jesus and Mary. You're listening to Returning to Catholic Roots in a New Age World, a podcast hosted by Holly and Mandy. Let's begin our show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast, Returning to Catholic Roots in a New Age World. My name is Holly, and as always, I'm joined here by my mother, Mandy, and we'll begin our episode by saying, Jesus, meek and humble of heart, make our hearts like unto thine. So, happy to be back for another week and another episode here on the Catholic Family Podcast. And I guess we'll just start our show.
First, before we start, we have a very sorrowful kind of episode to talk about today. But before we talk about that, I want to give a shout out.
Oh, okay. That's where I was starting, but okay.
Oh, were you starting with the shout out?
No, I was starting with the important. Well, anyways, go ahead. Never mind.
To Sister Josepha's mother.
Oh, yes.
So okay.
No, that's not where I was starting with, but yes, I did.
Okay. Yeah. We love Sister Josepha. I love her. You remember her from girls' camp?
Yeah,
years ago. Girl. And she messaged her mother, I guess, and said, "I'm going to Canada." And her mother said, "Say hi to Holly."
Yeah.
She didn't mention me, so that's okay. But anyway, so sister came up, and I guess
that was one of the first things she said to me was, I told my mother I was going to Canada, and she said, "Oh, make sure you say hi to Holly. I listened to her podcast."
Right.
And I didn't know that Sister Josepha's mother listened to our podcast.
Right.
So that's...
And we're not going to call her out.
No,
but we actually do know who she is.
I do know who she is. Sister did tell me. And
we actually guessed, though.
I did guess, yes.
And I said, because we said, who would be the mother of a nun?
And a nun like Sister Josepha, who's my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. We just adore her.
I love Sister Josepha.
So we're going to we're not going to call you out. Like, we don't know. Maybe you want to be private.
We don't know, and I don't want to, and you didn't say that. So, but hello back.
Hello.
And thank you for saying hi to me and telling me that you listen to the podcast. And
we appreciate it.
And I appreciate it. It was very nice to hear that. So.
Yeah. And we also want to tell you again how much we love Sister Josepha.
Yes.
Like when we heard she was coming.
Well, I'll tell you a little cute story. So and I can tell it because my sister won't care. So
right.
We're standing in choir practice, and we're practicing for the Requiem Mass, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But we're in choir practice, and we were talking about the singing of the Requiem Mass, and Sister Jacinta had said, well, the nuns are coming from the Middleville parish to help, and they're coming to accompany Father Applehands, and as well, 2 CMD sisters are coming. And my sister was like, which CMD sisters are coming?
Yeah.
And Sister said, Sister Josepha. And then she couldn't even say the other nun's name, because when she said that, both me and my other sister, for lack of a better word, started fangirling that Sister Josepha was coming. We're like, no, Sister Josepha, no way. Yeah.
We haven't seen her
we don't get to see her anymore. Like, we used to see her a lot because she would come for girls' camp, catechism in the summer. She was the nun that always came.
Yeah, and she was a nun before Sister Jacinta.
Yeah, and
so she used to come here when Sister Jacinta
was a girl,
a girl, yeah.
So it was just, we were having our moment that we were so excited that she was coming.
Yeah.
And then after choir practice, I said to my sister, what other nun was coming? And then my sister was like, oh, I don't know. After she said Sister Josepha, I just blanked out. I was so excited.
Yeah, so we were very excited. That was our slight moment of joy.
Joy, yeah.
In what's been
a very sorrowful week.
More than a sorrowful week.
So
it's been more than a week.
I will start off by saying, first and foremost, we would like to ask all our listeners to please keep in your prayers the repose of the soul of Nicholas Stevers from our parish, who died not this Sunday, but the Sunday before, not last Sunday, but the Sunday before, January 26th, I believe was the date, in a tragic snowmobile accident. He was just 18 years old. and please keep in your prayers his dear family, who are very good friends of mine, and especially his mother, who is a part of our confraternity. She's a confraternity member, and just an unimaginable loss
Mm-hmm.
of what I would say a very good boy.
Yeah, very good boy.
Very good boy.
A very good son.
A very good son, hardworking, dedicated. They're farmers, and he always was there working. And but what I will say about him, what I want to say, because I do believe that now that he's gone, he leaves behind a very good example for young boys.
Yeah.
I know, well, for the boys in our parish,
Yeah,
anyways. I mean,
absolutely.
it's not anything that anybody else would have seen if you didn't go to our parish, but I just want to say, because I do believe when we talked about this in the podcast when our dear friend Alexa died, about how they said in the line, in Jesus of Nazareth, God bless him, best of men. When
Yeah.
they were talking about Saint Anne, or Saint Anne's husband, Saint Joachim, I can never say that. But I would like to say about Nicholas, um, God bless him, best of young men.
Yeah.
Because he was always going back to the sacristy to serve.
Always. He always served.
He always served. Always, like, and not that you really want to watch people when they're coming into mass, but sometimes you can't help but watch people.
Yeah.
And what I observed was that he either went right to the confessional or right to the sacristy.
Yeah.
At a time in his life when all the young men around him stopped serving.
Right.
He never stopped serving.
Well, and in fact, one of the mothers told us the story that she said to him, "Why you keep serving?"
Yeah.
Okay, and the other thing about Nicholas too was he was very, very tall.
Yes, very tall.
So he towered above Father.
Yeah.
Like, so,
Yeah.
he towered above Father. And she said, why do you keep serving? And his answer was, because I like it.
I like it. Yeah.
And Father had, made comments about how tall he was getting, there on the altar. But he did, like, he took it very, like, seriously.
Yes.
That's what he wanted.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do that. And there was a lot of things that happened the day of the accident, like all the things in our lives. Like, there's really never no coincidences.
Right.
Like, there's these bizarre trail of events.
Right.
And then you kind of see how everything is getting put into place.
Right.
Right? I mean, we talked about John Thompson, right, and his funeral. Nicholas served at that funeral.
He served at the funeral.
He served at that funeral because he was always serving.
Mm-hmm.
And when did we have that? January 11th.
January 11th.
January 11th
was John Thompson's funeral.
John Thompson's funeral. And of course, I think we've mentioned this before, but you go out to the graveyard, right, when you go to the burial site, and the very, very last prayers that are said are for the next to die. The next one of us here that will die.
He's saying, "Our Father, Hail Mary, and glory be."
Right, and those were,
and it's said too.
Yes,
like the priest announces that's what you're doing. So the very last thing in a Catholic burial is that you say one Our Father, one Hail Mary, and a glory be for the next one of us here.
Yes,
who is to die.
Right? So those were his prayers.
Yeah.
So that's kind of profound to think about.
Yeah.
And he the day, well, why don't you tell? The day he died was a Sunday. Yeah. And this also too is, which I find is very odd, but the correlation between him and Alexa, is almost the same story.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, not exactly
the same. A tragic accident.
Yeah.
But, as it happened that Sunday, everybody in his family
was really sick.
We had a bad bug going around. People were catching it. We were catching it in this house. People were catching it everywhere. And the only two people that went to mass that day
from his family
was him and his mother.
Yeah.
So she got to spend that
his last day with just him.
Yeah.
And they come quite a distance.
Right. They do come a
They come,
distance.
so, she had that time in the
Over
car,
an hour.
over
It's
an
about an
hour
hour. Over
in the
an,
car,
slightly
that
over.
while there and back. So
Yeah.
over
2
2
hour.
hours, just her and her son together. I
Yeah.
mean, what a gift. What an incredible gift. Because they have a big family. So I I mean, I don't presume to know what goes on their car rides on the way to mass, but I imagine it's very hectic
Yeah.
and chaotic with little kids, and and so, but that would have been a very calm, very just nice car ride with her son.
Yeah.
I'm sure,
Right. So he died with the scapular on.
Um,
He
went
had
to
he
confession and
went to
communion,
confession, went to communion, served mass,
mass.
and yeah, and then he went home and was about his day and was in recreation. He
Yeah,
was in the middle of recreation
yeah,
and an accident happened.
yeah,
So I mean, it's very I I think of that I think it's St. John Bosco.
Bosco.
We should have looked that quote up
Yeah,
beforehand
I'm
where
pretty sure it was John Bosco.
yeah, where he said if you knew you were going to die
Yeah,
at this moment, what would you do?
too.
And he said what I'm doing now because I'm prepared,
Yeah,
right? So, he even in our recreation that we have to be
prepared.
prepared
Yeah.
for the death, right?
Mm-hmm.
So of course, naturally, like beyond sad.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even, and even my son made a comment. My son was serving in his place, I guess you would say. He didn't, you know, but he said, I think they're going to have to retire Nicholas's casket. Or casket. I'm sorry, I'm sounding
Cassock.
cassock.
Yeah.
I'm sounding like Doug getting
My son the only reason we say, my son makes that mistake all the time.
right,
He calls his cassock a casket. And
right,
I have to tell him all the time, it's a cassock, Doug.
right. So he said because he's so tall
Yeah.
that
Nobody else can fill it.
nobody else will be able to fill that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, his shoes, like who's going to
Yeah,
fill those
who's going to
shoes?
fill his shoes?
You know?
I mean, you just talk about an all-around dependable young man.
Yeah. On every aspect.
In every aspect. At church, I'm sure in his home life.
Well, his mother said
Yeah.
he never give her grief.
Yeah.
He always just did what
Yeah.
she asked, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and kind of what I want to talk about this too is about the connection between us moms
Yeah.
and the sorrowful mother,
Yeah.
right? And Jordan Peterson had wrote something about this, and I know before our last time when I mentioned Jordan Peterson, people were like, who's he that we should listen to him?
Yeah.
So I want to clarify a little bit about Jordan Peterson. First of all, he's not a theologian,
Yeah.
right? So he's not somebody to base your religion on.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. What he is he's a psychologist.
Yeah.
So when he writes, he's writing from the psychology, right? And
Yeah.
psychology is how the mind works,
Mm-hmm.
right? And personally, that's why I find him so phenomenal, because he relates the mind always back to the church,
Right.
right? And he ties it in. And I don't know well, I do have my theories about what's wrong, why somebody can relate how important the church is to everything to the mind.
Yeah.
I don't know what his hurdles are getting over that, why he hasn't, really embraced the faith that comes with that.
Right.
But that's his business, not ours. But the
Right.
thing is that he wrote, and did you want to, I sent it to you, right? Because I've seen it multiple times, right?
Yeah.
He talks about the Pieta.
Yeah.
And did you want to pull it up on your phone so we could read exactly what he says about that Pieta?
Well, I can't, it's going to play, so.
Okay. I think the words play, so maybe you can just repeat it.
Yeah. Anyways, I'll get it. Just.
Yeah. Okay. So he talks about the message that the Blessed Virgin left us and that Michelangelo captured.
Yeah.
In this this very beautiful piece of
He
artwork.
says, well, the best portrayal of that I've seen is Michelangelo's Pieta. Now it's a statue of Mary, and she has Christ's body on her as an adult on her lap, and he's broken and destroyed. And you know she's displaying that. That's the bravery of a mother to allow that to happen. But not only that, to facilitate it, away you go. But sorry, he's talking. See, he got off his train of thought there for a little bit. He goes on to something else.
She's reading
So you
him as
might
he's
lose your
talking.
body out in there in the world, but if you lose your soul, yeah, it went too fast. Maybe you know what? Maybe I'll just play it and then the audio will pick up in my mic. How about that?
Yeah, that's probably better.
Because, yeah, like the captions are coming up, but they're not matching up, so.
Go out into the world knowing that they're still vulnerable and that it's now down to them and the world to look after them. That's one of the bravest things that they can do. It's the female crucifixion. Well, the best portrayal of that I've seen is Michelangelo's Pieta. It's a statue of Mary, and she has Christ's body on her as an adult on her lap, and she's broken and destroyed, and she's displaying that. That's the bravery of a mother to allow that to happen, but not only that, to facilitate it. So what about where you go, kid? Where you go? Well, why? It's dangerous out there. It's more dangerous here if you stay with me. By a lot. So you might lose your body out there in the world, but if you stay here, you lose your soul.
There's like a kind of a lot to unpack in there because I know how much everybody is suffering. Like, everybody is suffering. I can't even tell you, our whole parish is suffering.
Yeah.
At the thought of it. Everything has become very, very sorrowful. But there's a lot of comfort to be taken in that. That here you'll lose your body, but you don't want to lose your soul.
Yeah.
And God takes you at your very best.
Yeah.
And he was at his very best. He was. We don't know what's going to happen later.
Yeah.
And as, your brother said, who's, almost 40, right? And he's had a bit of a rocky road, He basically said, he got to live
the best years.
The best years.
From 1 to 18.
The best years.
Those are the best years.
And then
like once you reach adulthood,
so much could happen that we don't even know, bad women.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying everything is like, oh, yeah, you're an adult now. It's all downhill from here.
Right.
But I mean, there is a sorrowing,
yeah,
and a suffering that comes with being an adult and having that responsibility and being responsible for children and husbands and wives and everything else that, you don't have when you're ages 1 to 18. I'm not saying kids don't suffer in any way, shape, or form, but not to the extent that an adult does.
That happens
when you become an adult. So he did live the best years.
He did live the best years.
So I mean,
and we have to, and I'm saying this very loosely because, almost like it's easy for you to say.
No, yeah.
When it's really difficult for the parents and the family.
Yeah.
To, because they're the ones that are suffering because
they now have to live a life without him.
They're living the loss.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, as I said to the mom personally, I said, if it's any consolation, like the correlation between her and the Blessed Virgin right now is pretty big.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson talked about that, her being at the foot of the cross, her taking the body down of her beloved son, holding her son, his broken body in her arms. And that's what Nicholas's mother did. She was there at the cross, it was a cross.
Yeah.
Like that was her cross right there. That it was a tree actually. It was a tree that they hit.
Yeah.
And she was there holding the body of her broken son.
Yeah.
I mean, in all the pain, it's hard to see what a great gift that is.
Yeah.
Because you're so suffering your loss that you can't think about it.
Yeah.
But it is a great gift.
Yeah.
I mean, who of us can say now that that we have experienced what the Blessed Virgin has? There's a song that says, "Make me feel as thou hast felt."
Make my soul to glow and melt.
Make my soul to glow and melt, right?
It's in
And
the Stations of the Cross.
it's in the
It's
Station of the
Stabat
Cross.
Mater.
Yeah, So I mean, now everybody has the great opportunity to become maybe holier than they would have.
Right.
Because they can identify and they can connect and they can feel the pain and the suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and as the other thing, you said you wrote on there his tribute wall, like Our Lady had to live 15 years without our Lord after the crucifixion.
Right.
15 years she had to stay here on earth and live without him because her job here was not finished.
Right.
Her work here was not done.
Yeah.
As it's sad and it's catastrophic and it's tragic and it's all those things, but God said his work here was done.
Yeah.
His time here was done, and he fulfilled or did everything, well, you hope, that he was supposed to do, and God wanted him back.
Wanted him back, right?
It's the same thing we said with Alexa, and I wrote a card to his mother, and I said the same thing, and I believe it now more than ever, and I told myself this after Alexa died, that the comfort that I take, and I hope she takes as well, is that he was so dear to our Lord that he had to go home.
Yeah.
Well,
how old was Dominic Savio when he died? 23 or something? Or was he younger?
No, I think he was way younger than that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think he was just a boy, wasn't he?
Right.
These boys, and they
or even the Fatima children, right? When Lucia had to
yeah.
stay behind.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah.
They were like, they got to go right away, but Lucia was the one.
He was 14. Dominic Savio was
14. I was way off.
Yeah.
They were sad for Lucia because she had to stay behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like.
And we have to keep remembering that. We have to keep telling ourselves, if we don't remember it, and if we don't see it from God's point, we will go so deep in our sorrow at our loss that we won't be able to recover.
Right. And the thing too is, it's like you have to remind yourself, and I mean this generally, because I can't even fathom losing a child. I'm not even going to pretend that I can fathom that. But it does, you have to remind yourself, why are we here in the first place? And it's like, if you, I say it, always say it when Alexa died, I know we can't say where people are.
Yeah.
But we do know, and we do see, and we have the proof and the faith of our religion that God is all just and all mercy.
And this was somebody really good.
Really good.
Who died. From our perspective.
From our perspective, and you think and you pray for this person, you pray and pray and pray for them. You never stop praying for them.
Yeah.
No matter what. God willing, they're in heaven. But if they're not, that's why you pray for them. And if they are, and you're still praying for them, God uses those prayers for something else.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but this is where I think to myself, how do people get through this if they don't have this?
No, well, I know they don't. I know they don't get through it well, because your aunt died at 33. She died of bone cancer.
My father's sister.
Yeah, your father's sister, and she was never married, and she didn't have any children. But my in-laws, they could never get over it. Like they they had no consolation. They had no comfort.
And when you say get over it, I don't mean like that's a very broad, like, get over it. I don't like that, because it's like
No, I
you
know.
don't ever get over it, but they couldn't cope.
They couldn't cope.
They never coped with
They
it.
never coped
Period.
after, right?
After.
You
They
know,
never were able to cope.
right. Yeah, coping is a better term.
Yeah, because
nobody
nobody gets over it.
nobody
Nobody
expects you to get over.
expects you to get over it. So I always like to say they can't cope with it.
Right.
They can't move on
Uh-huh.
with their life from it.
Yes.
Like at some point, and I mean, and you can say to me, well, you can say, well, who are you? You know, but I did lose a parent.
Oh yeah, you lost a
I
parent.
know loss.
Yeah.
Tragic loss.
And I'm going to say this.
And I will tell you, you do learn to live with it.
Mm-hmm.
You do, at some point, you do have to learn to live with, and I'm going to say this very specifically, learn to live with the decisions that God made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, the only way that you can learn to live with it and cope and get through it is that you have to remind yourself that God is in control.
Right.
And these things happen for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And now it's our job to pray and sacrifice and.
Well, I'm going to tell you, like, you were gone for 5 years, right, out of my life.
Yeah.
And so it was like you had died.
Yeah.
When a child removes themselves from your life. And I didn't know that you would ever come back. Like, I mean, eventually, like in the beginning of the loss of you leaving,
Yeah.
it was like you were dead.
I didn't think I was ever coming back.
Yeah, it was like you were dead.
Yeah.
And I used to think, how sad I would have been if you had died when you were a young, good girl.
Yeah.
Versus, leaving me the way,
Yeah.
and I used to actually think she should have died when she was younger. Like, I used to think that.
Yeah.
I thought you were in a good place. And
Yeah.
I know that sounds, I don't know, maybe awful, but I mean, and I was broken, and there was my other kids, my other daughters had to say to me, I was so distraught over losing you that my other two daughters had to say to me, we're still here. Hello.
Like, do we not matter?
Do we not matter?
Yeah.
And then I made the realization of how, when we don't love God, like that. And there is actually, I can't remember what, I think it's Father Faber. It's written in a Father Faber book. But everybody has a very specific love that they are required to give to God.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't give it to God, no other person can replace it.
Yeah.
Right? So, the people out there that maybe don't love God, we can't love God enough
for them
to replace that love.
Well, and it's just like Father says, like, and I've heard many priests say before, that our Lord would come down and he would do the crucifixion all over again if there were just one soul on earth that needed it.
Right.
He would have done all of that just for you, for one
Right.
person.
Right.
So that tells you right there.
So I knew firsthand, and I didn't have any consolation in you being gone.
Yeah.
I didn't have any, that, this is, it was there. Don't get me wrong. It was there. And if I'd have handled it better, I would have been more God's will. This is what's needed. God, this needs to happen, instead of thinking about myself and my own loss, right? And, eventually by the 5 years as they moved on, I got to the point where I was like, well, I guess she'll know how much I loved her in heaven.
Yeah.
And that all this stuff that I've done.
Yeah.
Because I did think I was never going to see you again.
Yeah.
But this story has a good ending.
Yeah.
But so does Nicholas's.
Yeah.
And
I said to his mother, I said, well, I wrote her a card, and I just said, this is a heavy cross that the heaviest cross I've seen in my lifetime.
I would say it's the heaviest cross for a mother.
I've never seen a cross this heavy in my entire life.
Yeah.
In my own personal circle, like
Yeah.
from people I know people out there, like you watch the news and you hear people go through traumatic things. I'm talking in my life,
Yeah.
in the people I know.
Yeah.
This is the heaviest cross I have seen.
Mm-hmm.
um and I said to her, for whatever reason, I can't remember my exact words, but that God has put this cross on you, this burden, this unbearable cross. But when these crosses are carried correctly, and I told her, this will be your crown and glory in heaven.
Yeah. And other people's too.
This will be your when you go and you die, and if you carry this cross well,
Mm-hmm.
your crown in heaven will be magnificent.
Right.
I
Right.
believe that,
Yeah.
like because there's nothing more awful for a mother
No, there's nothing.
than to
There's
lose a
nothing.
child.
There's nothing as far as that can be possibly worse than this for a mother.
Yeah.
My mother that loves her children. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are mothers that
No. Yeah.
out there, but the other thing though I want to talk about, because is that Nicholas's great grandfather was the founding member of our parish,
Yeah.
of Our Lady of Victory. And I know I asked one day, but they had many people and many children in their family, and they lost two sons. I can't remember the specifics, but I think within a year of each other in farming accidents, and they were teenagers.
Yeah.
So they lost two in a year, and that is part of the reason
We have a church.
we have a church.
Yeah.
And Mr. Stevers found the true faith.
Yeah.
Because that's what death does. It redirects you.
Yeah.
So, this is back in, I don't know, the 70s, the 80s,
Yeah.
And you lose two sons back to back. You need answers.
Yeah.
Right? And you go to God and you go to get those answers.
Yeah.
And God directed him. That's where they became traditionalists, sedevacantists, and Father Norman and all that stuff, because he was out there looking for the answers. And I mean, and you could say to yourself that probably would not have happened without the death of those two boys.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the same thing. The good that will come from it is yet to be seen.
Yeah.
But we have confidence that it will come.
Like, this was not for nothing.
It was not for nothing.
Yeah.
I
mean, and at the very least, you have the salvation of the soul.
Right.
And we say God takes you at your very best.
Right.
So, that is,
because
when you think about that, it's very, because without it, as a secular person would go, this is so unnecessary.
Right.
This is so unfair. This is so, he didn't get to live a full life. This is so cruel.
Yeah.
Well, it's sad. It's tragic. But as Catholics, we know it is necessary.
It is necessary.
Because, and I'm telling you, when you have a young man who writes in his yearbook the two places he wants to visit, Holland and heaven.
Yeah.
That's what he wrote. So to him, I would say it's necessary, like it was necessary, you knew this was important to him. So, it's just, it seems like as of late, there's been a lot of tragedy.
Well, in our lives anyway.
No, but in general, across the Catholic
sphere.
Yeah. it seems there has been a lot of death lately. You know,
Young death, you
young
mean.
death.
Or,
Alexa, the mother from, was it Wisconsin, I think, with the
yeah,
2 boys?
yeah.
I can't remember what state it was, so I'm sorry. Um, um,
The dad
there,
in the truck.
the dad in the truck. Yes, that's the other one I was thinking of. I mean, there's
Or
just been
the little girl in
the little
Florida.
girl in Florida. Like, there's just been, it seems like, and I don't know, you know, maybe like the internet keeps everything
Relevant.
relevant,
Or
you
in
know,
your
or
face,
in
or
your
we
face,
would
or that
never
you
hear.
even know about it.
We would never hear about all
Like
these
with,
things.
yeah, without the internet, I never would have heard about that little girl.
Yeah.
I never would have heard about this young man with his growing family in the truck.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, you never would have heard of these things.
Yeah.
So that could be, but I'm just saying, like, it just, uh, I believe that, you know, and I mean, I hate to say it, but, you know, God is sending us examples.
Yeah. I think so too.
I think God is sending us, and I don't want to be all doomsday and conspiracy theorist and whatever, but
That's my job.
that's my mom's job. But I can't help but think, and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm willing to eat my words.
Yeah.
But I feel like God may be going, it's time to get serious.
Yeah.
The end is not far.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be wrong, but
Yeah. It just seems a little.
it just seems a little like, how have I lived 38 years? And then there's been more devastation and tragic. And I'm talking in the Catholic sphere.
Yeah.
With families. And there's been so much.
Yeah. And also too, like it's very clear. I mean, the 2 deaths that we've been involved in that have been hit close to home to us.
Yeah.
It was the best of the best.
He took the best.
He took the
He
best.
took the best people I've known in my life.
Yeah. The best
And
young
I
man.
can say that without hesitation. I can say that Alexa was the best woman in my life.
Yeah.
That I knew.
Yeah.
One of the best.
Yeah.
Very few and far between can hold a torch to her.
Yeah.
And then now this person who, although I wasn't close with Nicholas, he was 18.
Yeah.
But I am close with his mother.
Yeah.
She's my friend.
Yeah.
I can say without hesitation, from what I saw, one of the best young men in our parish.
Well, you know, you just looked at him and you went, "No, there's a good boy."
Yeah.
That's what you said in your head.
Yeah.
You know.
You never saw him and thought anything but, oh, there's just a good boy over there.
Yeah.
There's a good boy.
And everybody said that too.
And everybody said that. And you know, people don't generally lie.
Yeah, you know.
You know, they don't just tell you things just because they think. I mean, of course, everybody, like when somebody dies, you get all these comforting thoughts and whatever, but everybody is consistently saying the same thing about him.
Yeah.
Consistently.
Yeah.
He was a very good boy.
Yeah.
A very good boy, you know, and that was being stressed to the max.
Uh-huh.
You know. So, you know, I mean, it's hard because we don't live in a Christian society.
Right.
And, you know, I tried to think in my mind about what was it like, what would it have been like around the time of, like, let's say even St. Teresa.
Yeah.
When St. Teresa died.
Mm-hmm.
Did people know they just witnessed the death of a saint?
Mm-hmm.
You know. Now, and I'm not saying no, I don't.
Anyone's
a saint.
I don't know. I mean, you're right.
But what I'm saying is, people know when people are good.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, you know, like, are we losing the good ones because they're our new example?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not saying that as a statement. I'm asking.
Yeah.
You know, are we starting to lose good people because we need a good Christian example?
Yeah.
And I never would have thought of Nicholas when he was alive.
Yeah.
Like, he was there, he was serving on the altar. I knew he was a good boy.
Yeah.
But now I look at my son
Mm-hmm.
and I say, be that.
Yeah.
Be that. You know, he was sick, and we had the Feast of the Purification. And Father messaged me and said, "Can Doug be a pole or a cross bearer for the Feast of the Purification?" Yes, absolutely. Whatever you need, Father. And then Doug said, "I'm sick. I can't do it." I said, "You're doing it."
Yeah.
I said, "And you get up there, and I know you're sick, and I know you're not feeling well." I said, "But you offer it up, and you offer it up for Nicholas, and you do it for Nicholas. He needs you. You know, you and would I have done that?
No.
You know?" So these people become examples,
Right.
you know, and I'm going to use the word relatable because you know them. So my son, I can say to my son, be a little Saint Dominic Savio.
Yeah.
Be a little Saint Tarcisius.
Oh, what's that? The boy from uh, Vio Cristo.
Yeah, be a little
Is
I'm
his name
blanking
Juan?
on his
Is
name.
it Juan? Everybody's named Juan, aren't they?
But I can say that to him, but and he can go. I mean, I don't know what he says in my head. I'd like to think he's in his head going, yes, mommy," but
Yeah.
I'm not delusional.
Yeah.
I think sometimes he's like, "I just don't feel like it." But he knew Nicholas.
Yeah.
He knew Nicholas.
Right.
So when I say to him, "You do this and you do it for Nicholas," I know now for the rest of his life that will bear substantial weight with him.
Right.
You know, that he can grow up and he can say, "I knew him.
Yeah.
I knew that boy, and I knew he was a good boy because I saw it with my own eyes."
Mm-hmm.
And that's I mean, I don't know that his mother listens to our podcast, but on the in
Well, his auntie does,
his auntie does, and I just want them to know that
and she will probably
yeah,
listen to it because we're talking about it.
but I do want them to know that uh phew, what he left behind for these boys
Mm-hmm.
is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. So he didn't leave behind nothing,
Yeah.
you know, and every single one of those kids, well, I'm not going to say single one of those kids, but my kids, without a doubt, remembered his speech at graduation.
Yes. I remembered it.
It was the only one I did remember.
Yeah.
It was the only one because he got up there, and if he didn't say "I love God" 50 times, he said it once.
Yeah. We
It
said,
was he just got "I love God and I love my family and I love to farm and I love God and I want to thank God." Like, it was just God on repeat, but it was so him, and it was so sincere and so
I turned to somebody when he was after his speech, and I said, "Do you think
he
Nicholas
loves
loves God?"
God. I mean, you would have to know him to understand what we're saying. It was just it I mean, and now that he's gone, it's just you think about it and you think how beautiful it was.
Yeah.
That it was just so beautiful, his speech. Very few words,
Yeah.
but so beautiful. It was all about God, and you know, so that you just think in your mind that, like, this wasn't for nothing,
Right.
you know.
And with all the pain and all the sorrow and all the loss, which obviously is really going to hurt for a very, very
Very long
long
time.
time. There is a lot of consolation. There is a lot of glory in the moment.
Yeah.
Just like um, you can't have the glory without the cross.
No, there is no glory without the suffering.
There is no glory without the suffering.
And this life is short.
I'm 62 or whatever I am now, and I know it's short. I can't even remember how I got here. Like, I'm just like, one minute I was young and now I'm 62.
And we and we know our loved ones, even if they are in purgatory, they can intercede for us.
Yeah.
We pray to the holy
Yeah.
souls.
Yeah.
You know, um, I just I think about it and I think, uh, I do hope that when I die, I have this many people praying for me.
Right.
When I see all these good people that die so young,
Yeah. He had about 500 people at his
500 people at his funeral, we couldn't even do it at the church.
They had
We
to
had to rent a hall.
and
Um,
and he had how many nuns?
well, there was four
8.
CMRI
8.
nuns
Yeah.
and 4 CMD nuns. The
Yeah.
2 we have here, plus the 2 that came from Ohio,
And then
and then the 4 CMR
from
CMR
Middleville and
nuns.
Detroit,
Yeah,
they came. So the choir was beautiful. The Requiem Mass was beautiful.
yeah,
Father Applehands came. You
yeah.
know, his cousins were serving on the altar
Altar.
for him.
Yeah,
You know, it was very solemn. Probably one of the most solemn.
it was for me. It was the most solemn funeral I have ever been to
Yeah,
in my life.
and you can't even 500 people sitting in that
In room,
auditorium.
you could have heard a pin
You
drop.
could have heard a pin drop.
Yeah,
And you can't tell me even those 500 people are not affected.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, they have a big family, very very big family. They belong to a very very big farming community, and then there's the church family.
yeah,
So it's a lot of people.
yeah. And I mean, regardless of, even, if someone's in purgatory or heaven, they can still start working for people.
And the other thing too, like all those people that maybe probably more than half of them are not Catholic,
Yeah.
right? So um, they, even being there, get a chance to see that death actually means something.
Something. Yeah.
It means something.
Something. Yeah. Yes. So, anyways, anything else you want to add?
No, I'm just.
I do want to just say one more time to all our listeners, because I know you're out there, I guess. Please do keep him in your prayers,
Yeah.
and keep his family in your prayers. Pray for the repose of his soul. It's funny because when Alexa died, we say our daily rosary, and I offer the rosary for her, and I haven't stopped since she died.
Yeah.
You know, um, and then this happened, and now my daily rosary goes to Nicholas. And then every time I get a little like, when do when do you change? But I'm like, I just don't know when. I don't think I could ever not say my rosary for him now,
Yeah.
because it's just affected me so much. And still, the kids and I, we've added at the end of our morning prayers, eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon him. May he rest in peace. And we haven't stopped doing that
Right.
since the day we found out he died, So I think there's just certain people that stick with you,
Yeah.
and you just, so if you could please, I'll just add him to your prayers, please, and his family especially, as they try to now
Navigate
their life without such a pivotal member
Yeah.
of their family. So, and he was the firstborn great grandson,
Yeah.
firstborn grandson, firstborn son.
Yeah.
He was the first
Mm-hmm.
for all of them. I knew he was his first I didn't know he was the first great grandson too, though.
Wow.
And yeah, so yeah, so I guess we'll. Do you have anything else you want to?
No. Just that my heart is broken too.
Yeah,
You know, and it doesn't seem like much, you know, to offer,
Yeah.
you know, but
It, yeah. You know, we can, and the thing is like, this is, this is the other thing. And I hate to keep saying, I don't understand what people do when they're not Catholic, but I really don't, because at the end of the day, words fail. Words don't, like, you know, the expression, words can't express what I feel right now. There are no words for, I
yeah,
have no words for you.
yeah,
And then when I say that, and in my head I say, I may have no words for them, or I may not know what to say to them, but I know at the end of the day, they always have my prayers.
yeah,
I may not be able to offer consoling words. I may not be able to take the pain away or take the hurt away or do anything to help you, but I know at the end of the day, I can always offer you my prayers,
right, right,
you know, and my sacrifices and penances too.
right,
You know, so that's just, I just find that so comforting that people can do that. And when you don't have that, what do you do, you
yeah.
know? But anyway, so we'll leave it there for today, and hopefully we'll be back next week, and maybe we'll finish our book.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. But anyway, so yep, if you can all just remember them in your prayers, and we do hope that you have a very good week, a very blessed week always, obviously, and thank you for listening. And until next week or the next time we're back on here, we hope that God blesses you and Mary guides you always. And Saint Teresa,
Teresa, pray for us.